Hi, I'm James, and welcome to the Functional Forum.
This month we are here in Hollywood, Florida.
We are here at the Integrated Healthcare Symposium in New York.
It's great to be here in San Francisco, in Chicago, sunny Phoenix, Arizona, and Orange County, California.
This time we've come to the IFM's annual conference in Austin, Texas.
So glad to be in Boulder.
We're in New Delhi, India.
And welcome to London. We're here in Guernsey.
Stuttgart, Germany. Hello and welcome to Cleveland.
The energy is awesome in DC.
I've got my pass. Let's get into it.
Thanks so much everyone for watching. We've got an epic lineup tonight of speakers. We've got an awesome panel here.
Amazing group of functional doctors, technology, activists for a leap forward in medicine.
You know, our goal is to make it easy for practitioners to learn in community.
This ecosystem that is being set up by the meetup groups, we believe will be the future ecosystem of this evolved primary care network, and it all revolves around you.
Welcome to the Functional Forum. Thanks for joining us in the charge to accelerate the evolution of medicine. Please welcome your host, James Maskell.
10 years ago this week, Gabriel Hoffman and I hosted the first Functional Forum in the Helen Mills Theater in Midtown Manhattan.
Our vision in creating this event was to create a platform where new information is being shared, and then on top of that, creating another type of environment where people are meeting each other.
The goals were simple: connect isolated doctors and practitioners, make it easier for practitioners to find out about functional medicine, and share best practices in three main areas: clinical care, practice management, and health technology.
I think the future of medicine and the future of life is really going to depend on this type of event, this type of communication, and these types of people meeting each other. And we're excited to continue to bring that to you.
After an initial run at Helen Mills Theater, we upgraded in September 2014 to new venues like Deepak Home Base and ABC Home, and then to Neue House, where we did some of our best events. In 2016, we took the show on the road, and over the next few years hosted forums and educational events in cities across the country, and even the Royal Society of Medicine in London, Germany, Canada, Guernsey, Croatia, South Africa, Australia, and Delhi, India. At our peak, we had more than 100 communities live streaming the show from across the world. In 2018, we undertook a tour to launch New Health, the first non-denominational medical cost-sharing community, and put on over 25 live events in 4 months at communities across the country. After the sad and untimely passing of Gabe in 2019, and then once the lockdown started, we did a lot more forums virtually, but still had the chance to visit some of the most vibrant communities across the country and push the concept of group visits to the forefront of practitioner consciousness. The 10th anniversary brings together the strands of the first 10 years: practitioner communities, great clinical insight, and practical know-how, but with a new goal for the next decade: systemic transformation. And surprisingly, we're going to start that journey in Johnson City, Tennessee. Thank you all for being here. It matters.
Hello and welcome to the Functional Forum. This is the 10-year anniversary episode. 10 years ago in New York City, we started a movement by bringing practitioners together to learn from each other, to make it cool and aspirational to be a functional medicine doctor. And over the last decade, we have seen a transformation of this industry with many more doctors and practitioners coming to practice in this way. And tonight, we are going to chart the next 10 years, which is the large-scale adoption of functional and integrated medicine into health systems. It's going to be one hell of a time. Thanks so much for joining us. Enjoy. So 10 years ago when we started the Functional Forum, the goal was to make it easier for doctors who had heard about functional medicine, who had gone to functional medicine conferences, to start their own practice. And that's why we put aspirational doctors on stage, and we work to make it easy for doctors to start their own practice. And in 10 years, we've seen an incredible amount of success with now functional medicine doctors in every town and every city around America and around the world. The focus for the next 10 years is the large-scale adoption into health systems, and that's why we're here in Johnson City, Tennessee. This community meetup was started by Dr. Michael Mabry, who works for the State of Franklin Health Associates. He is one of 120 physician owners of the system, and uniquely, their payment model is through insurance, but in a capitated model. And we believe that capitation is going to open the door for the value of functional and integrative medicine to be really felt. So we caught up with him to find out a little bit about his story, why he started this community, and what his goals, dreams, and vision is for the future of medicine. Enjoy. All right, so I'm here with the founder of the East Tennessee Health Forum, Dr. Michael Mabry. Doc, tell us a little bit about your work situation.
Yes, I'm a family doctor here in East Tennessee. I'm an osteopath, but I've been studying functional medicine the last 5 or 6 years. And so I get to practice that in a multi-specialty group. We have 30 to 40 clinics all around East Tennessee, Southwest Virginia, and they're very focused on quality. So a lot of our reimbursement now is quality rather than only fee for service, which really lends well to getting people healthy, keeping them healthy. So it's a wonderful organization to work with.
When we did our podcast last year, you shared that the organization was encouraging you to do more of what you were doing. They didn't really know what it was, but they knew that they liked it.
Several people in the organization from all different branches really have appreciated the group visits that we're doing. My patients love the personal approach of that personal lifestyle medicine approach. And so I've actually been full with patients. And so now trying to have other practitioners who treat the same way come into the organization and teach from within as well.
So what are your hopes for the East Tennessee Health Forum?
I hope that it unites, 100, 200 local providers where we're learning together, we're serving together, and the result of that is the entire health of our region increases and improves.
What is the nature of the health of the region right now?
Pretty standard Appalachia region. So we have a lot of haves and a lot of have-nots. And so sometimes they fall between the cracks. So we have your typical diabetes and obesity and insulin resistance, and that leads to all those complications. A lot of alcohol use, a lot of drug abuse, opiates. And so it's kind of what you expect in Appalachia, but I know it doesn't have to be that way. And so we want to help that shift.
Amazing. And what do you think is likely to happen this evening? What are your hopes for this evening?
Oh, I hope everyone, one, just has a good time. Two, I hope everyone leaves with a little spark of what can I be doing in my community to elevate the health of my people and be inspiring others at the same time. So I hope they realize they're not alone.
Okay. Well, let's get into it. We're here with Dr. Michael Mabry. We're here in Johnson City, Tennessee. Let's check out some of the best bits.
I thought that I would share just for a few minutes before Dr. Hanaway comes up, just a little about my journey, how I got to this point in time, and then also where I hope we can go from here together as a family. And so, it's funny. I remember when I was like 7 or 8, I was in the back seat of our Honda. My mom was like, "What are you going to do when you grow up?" And I just spit out, "Be a doctor." She goes, "Why?" I'm like, "I don't know. I just did what I'm supposed to do. I didn't have anyone medical in my family. I don't know. I've just always known." And so the pathway led me there. But then as I'm going along, I worked for Johnson City Chiropractic for David and Chris in college. And I saw the benefits of chiropractic, nutrition, manual manipulation, sitting, listening to your patients. So I'd see people kind of walk in and I'd see them walk out. I was like, wow, medicine is fun. I saw that. But I knew medicines have a place. And there's all these different hats you have in medicine. And so, but I love the manipulation. And so that drove me to VCOM in Blacksburg, Virginia, which is a DO school. And I love the tenets of osteopathic medicine. It essentially says the body is a unit, our body is made up of units, that the body is made to self-regulate and self-heal, right? And that structure and function are I always struggle with that word, interrelated at all levels, meaning, the liver is designed in such a way so it can work properly. And so a rational view of medicine should be, you take all three of those mechanisms, right? So this is A.T. Still back in the 1800s. Right? That's how they were thinking. And so I love that, and I really jived with that. And so as I'm going along in my training, I stumbled into the functional forum. I really don't remember how I watched that first episode. But hearing them speak, Dr. Hanaway was on there early on as well, Dr. Mark Hyman and those. I resonated with what they were saying. I was like, so you're taking someone who's diabetic or has diabetes, and you're trying to figure out how they got there rather than only algorithm. metformin, statin, GLP-1, da 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 da. And I really appreciated that. I was like, wow, like that's a very good approach to medicine. And so as I've been watching that over the years, taken tons of courses, read tons of books, taken all the Institute of Functional Medicine courses, and I just lacked my certification. It has been a joy to learn functional medicine, which is just a paradigm shift of how we look at people. So I get to look at Doug or someone I'm treating and say, like, okay, how did you get to this point in your life? Rather than only, all right, what's your diagnosis? All right, what's the pill? Right? So the basis of functional medicine has just been so fun for me. But what really drives me and what really breaks my heart is just the reality of health in our country. And I have some stats up here, and stats, they don't quite do it justice, but they're important. So by 2030, we're going to have 54 million people in our country with diabetes. That is not sustainable, because from that comes kidney failure, vision loss, amputation after amputation. And a really crazy stat was possibly in the next 10 to 15 years, 80% of our country will have obesity or diabetes or pre-diabetes. When you guys were growing up in the 70s and 80s, y'all didn't see this. This is a very rapid increase. So this is a major problem that medications are not going to fix. Ozempic's not going to fix this, right? So we can't work our way out of that with medication, although medicines are important. 23 million of our people struggle with autoimmune disease. That was almost unheard of 100 years ago, right? 50 million struggle with mental illness, so depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, bipolar. These people need help. And it's not, obviously, when you go from a very low number to 50 million, this is not all genetics. A lot of this is environmental. A lot of this is ACEs, adverse childhood events as they're growing up, traumas that we've not dealt with well. 28 million people in this room have struggled with alcohol use disorder, right? 10 million with opiates. And you guys are well aware of a lot of the problems and how opiates came to rise up. And almost 1 million now are routinely using heroin. And that really, really breaks my heart. 25% of our nation has fatty liver, and that leads to a cascade of problems long-term. 15% chronic kidney disease. And then now 50% of women and 33% of men will now have cancer. That used to be 5% 120 years ago, right? So we cannot medicate our way out of these issues. And I know stats do it a little bit of justice, but when I have one patient in front of me who's an IV drug user, like that's enough to make you just like cry and do whatever you can just to help that one person, right? So now imagine there's 28 million, 10 million. And so this is really what drives me to do medicine better, to take the parts that work and let's bring in some new parts so we can solve this together. Because to me, it's easy to look at those numbers and be like, there's no hope. And it's really easy to check out. My brain is like, no, it doesn't have to be that way, right? So what can we start doing about it as a community here in East Tennessee? One of the things we're doing is, that I've been doing for a couple years now, is actually group visits. Group visits, do any of y'all in this room do group visits for anything? 2, 3, 4, my functional medicine people, I love it. How I got started with group visits? I think part of it was the community cure that I read from James. But as you'll see here in a second, 50% of Americans say, I'm lonely. That's a major problem for our health. Because when you're lonely, now you go to the doctor more, you go to the hospital more, your health is worse, depression goes up, suicidality goes up, especially after the last 3 years. Right? That was absolute hell on our mental health for a lot of people. And so what group visits do, which is so fun, is I'm able to teach a topic every month for 6 months. And that group now stays together. So what we've now just done is I've just made 10 strangers, 10 health coaches. And now they're checking on each other. They're loving on each other. They're like, where's Susie? I'm like, I don't know. You call her. Because they share each other's phone numbers. And that alone drives them back in. And I see over and over, after our 6-month session, 90% of them are like, when can I do the next one? I was like, well, you can sign up again. That's fine, And the fun part is you can bill for it now. You can bill a medical office visit. Or if you're in a cash model, just charge a $25 fee You get 8 people in the room, now it's affordable. Like, you can do it financially. You can make it work. So one way I think that we could do this in our region is by just more people doing group visits. That's certainly one way. I have a lot of other ways how we collectively can come together and serve our community, but I'm gonna let y'all dream at the tables here in a minute of how you guys think we can do that, and that'll be at the end of the night. But group visits are just fun, and I had a quick case study. I changed the names. But there's, in my groups, the ones who do the best are the ones who come with a couple, like come with their spouse, or they come with a friend or a daughter. So this is Jim and Janice. And when I first met Jim, he had a heart attack. He had a bypass. He struggled with obesity and hypertension. And he was like, Mike, most of my patients call me by my first name. Like, Mike, I just don't want to be like my dad who died when he was 60. I was like, I feel you. I think that's really, really important. And so, he was on some medicines, the standard of care, statins, blood pressure medicines, aspirin. They're reasonable, especially with his past heart attack. And so I started coaching him like in one-on-one in the office, and he started doing some lifestyle changes at home. But then I said, hey, Jim, you should come to the group visit I do. Explained what it was. And so he's like, can I bring my wife? I was like, yeah, of course. So he brought his wife. This is just a little cholesterol on him, which actually looks pretty good. You can see the top, that top 5 labs are kind of your standard lipid panel, but I did a little advanced profile on him, which is actually not too bad, except that he has a high Lp(a), which is really an inflammatory marker that we think is more genetic, but we're always learning more about it. And he had a little blood vessel inflammation. So it's a lot more intense look at cholesterol and blood vessel health than just HDL and LDL. So he and his wife are going through this class for 6 months, right? It takes 2 hours out of my month to do a group visit, right? It's nothing. They start cooking at home more. They're going to the gym. They really hop on the intermittent fasting because I taught them how fasting helps blood sugar and insulin resistance. We did just a couple supplements, just trying to help inflammation, trying to help his blood vessels. And so after about a year, so a little bit in the office and then 6 months of group visits, he's down 57 pounds. And I had to take him off 3/4 of his medication because he didn't need it anymore, right? A lot of those diseases, they're not even diseases. They're symptoms, or they're a cause from something else underneath. So if there's smoke in this building, you guys don't freak out that there's smoke. You freak out because of what's causing the smoke. But if you put that fire out, now the smoke's gone. That makes sense? And so now they're doing great. And the fun part is his wife lost 25 pounds, right? And she's feeling better, and her energy's up. And the other good thing about group visits is they take what they learn home with them. And so I have a quick 90-second video because people often say, people around here won't listen. They won't do what I ask. They're non-compliant, which I hate labeling people. We give them that identity of they won't do what you tell them. And that's not their identity, right? And so I have a video of my people, normal people, and here's just what they had to say about the group visits.
Well, I think it's the best thing you could do, okay?
To look more healthier, to be more healthier, and just to better my life for my 13-year-old boy.
Most of us, it's health-wise. We want to improve our health, or we wouldn't be there.
The positive encouragement, whether I lost 2 pounds or gained 2 pounds. And it was always the positive feedback and encouragement. It was like a coach that wants you to succeed, not trying to force you a square peg into a round hole.
The sessions that we've been going to every month are so jam-packed. So we've talked about nutrition and better eating habits and detailed stuff like what you should buy at the grocery store.
And I think that has just really opened my eyes to something. I mean, I'm a medical doctor and I never heard about this.
I really have enjoyed the sessions. I've gotten a lot out of them. We got a booklet that we keep all tons of information in. It really is beneficial.
I'm not just sharing the information myself and my wife, but I'm sharing it with other people who need to hear it. With the books that we have in the printouts, it's very easy to.
It's helping my son to want to eat better as well. So I highly recommend it for anyone. I'm 53 years old and I want to be here for a while.
Those are just regular folks, you know. And my guy who drives the Harley, he and his wife go to yoga every week. And so y'all, people will listen, but there's 3 main reasons why they won't. One of them is we don't teach them. They studied this pretty in depth. One of them is we doctors don't do it ourselves, right? So if we don't do what we're teaching, they're not going to listen. And the other one is we just don't think they'll do it, so we just don't. Those are the big 3 reasons. So I think my 7 or 8 patients there will tell you that they'll do it. But we have to walk it out with them on their journey. And sometimes they sprint and they start fasting and doing all the stuff you want. And sometimes it's just like a slow creep. So I just creep with them. You know, I just go at their pace, and they do really well. You know, so just in an imaginary situation, there's 80 of us in this room. What if all of us led a group class in our own practice, right? 10 people, it's 800 people we just touched, plus their families, call it 5,000 people. It doesn't take much to move the needle. It just requires intentionality.
Right, I'm here with Rob Slattery. He is the CEO of the State of Franklin Health Associates. Rob, tell us a little bit about some of the unique challenges here in Appalachia.
Well, I think it really starts from the perspective of the system of care that we have here in Appalachia, and really the opportunity we have to really change and create a new paradigm that focuses more on patient first. And I'd like to speak to creating an abundance mindset, because in many ways we have such overwhelming challenges that coming from a scarcity mindset, it's just not working. It's just not addressing the basic needs of having a healthy, high quality, engaged health system that gets the right quality, the right patient outcomes.
Yeah.
And really that stems from having the right patient engagement. And what I think we have an opportunity to do is to make greater investments in our healthcare system and the engagement of professionals like we saw here tonight in being able to start to think of things differently. I've always said that we can't control the future, but we can create the future that best meets our needs.
What is the future that you're going to create at State of Franklin?
I think we're going to continue the direction that we've had over the last couple decades, and that really stemmed from putting the patient first and building upon that with physician leadership, engaged clinicians. But it's also part of our value-based journey of improving the quality of the quality of the healthcare that our patients, we think, need, and also working with others, because we have a shared responsibility in creating that kind of healthcare ecosystem. And State of Franklin's been unique in the sense that it's stayed the course consistently since its founding in 1998. And I think as we start to move forward and adopt a value-based program that engages each and every one of our team members by creating value, equity for them in our organization, they're going to be more focused on how they engage at a patient level, irregardless of where they're at in an organization. So from that perspective, we hope to be a beacon for other organizations so we can get greater engagement, not just at the physician-patient level, but at every stage of the process within our organization.
You've been an incredible advocate for value-based care. Today in our meeting and then this evening, you've got a little sniff of what functional medicine has to offer. Where do you think it fits into that paradigm?
I see it as an extension, as a natural extension, as we start to look at the whole person and we start to look at the things that really contribute to an unhealthy lifestyle, and being able to turn back that which has contributed to many of the chronic diseases that we manage in our clinical environment. Is being able to take our model out into the community, out into the homes, out into the workplaces, out into the schools, so we can start to take what we know, expand that, and break down those things that are contributing to an unhealthy and or chronic disease state, and being able to unwrap that and then help people to rebuild into a more healthier and probably, I would say, more happier state of being.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to acknowledge some of the conversations that we had today were really meaningful for me, because I've been in a lot of these kind of seats and I've never really seen anyone in your seat who thinks the way you do. And I just want to acknowledge what a gift that is for this community, and I hope that we can see it all the way through.
I appreciate that, and I enjoyed our time together too. It's great to be able to connect with like-minded people, because at the end of the day, we are in the people business.
Yeah.
And it's something that I think will bring great joy to those that we serve, but then also leave behind a legacy that we did something very meaningful, and hopefully other communities can learn from what we do as we learn from them, and it becomes more of a movement.
Okay. Well, watch this space. Johnson City, Tennessee, State of Franklin Health Associates leading the way. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Before we hear from Dr. Patrick Hanaway, I want to share my appreciation for the support we've had over the years from the Institute for Functional Medicine and the curious, serendipitous overlaps with the Cleveland Clinic Center for Functional Medicine. On the 4th ever show, the first time we ever got the live stream working, Dr. Hyman flew in from Cleveland and announced for the first time that the Cleveland Clinic would be opening a center for functional medicine.
We are going to start a functional medicine institute at the Cleveland Clinic in September.
This was a big moment for our nascent show, to say the least. Over the next year, we identified some key areas of synergy with IFM, and over the next 3 years, worked closely on a number of key projects.
It's our second Functional Forum of the year in collaboration with the Institute for Functional Medicine.
We've created a video review of each annual conference since 2015. We've hosted a pre-party at each IFM annual conference since 2016. We engaged IFM practitioners around the world to start their own meetups and live stream those shows. And then we co-created dozens of larger meetups. In 2018, we took a tour of the 17,000 square foot Cleveland Clinic Center for Functional Medicine, showcasing the innovative delivery and care model. And now here in 2024, you'll hear Dr. Patrick Hanaway, one of the leaders of that project, share some of the outcomes, in particular the cost outcomes that we believe hold the key to systemic transformation. We'll be back at the annual conference at the end of May this year at the world-renowned Bellagio Hotel in Las Vegas. This year, the theme is Repair, Restore, Regenerate, healing of the micro and the macro through functional medicine. AIC provides an opportunity to see old friends, learn about new functional medicine approaches, share expertise, and create new connections with practitioners from around the globe. Tier 2 pricing ends April 5th. To learn more and to register, go to aic.ifm.org, and I'll see you there.
So one of the reasons why this movement is accelerating is that not only do we have big organizations starting to deploy functional medicine, but we have a network of independent clinics from around the area that can build these communities. And so only 45 minutes up the road from Johnson City, Tennessee, is Dr. Patrick Hanaway, who has been on the Functional Forum before as one of the leading lights in functional medicine, and actually moved to Cleveland Clinic back in 2015 in order to accelerate the Cleveland Clinic Functional Medicine Project. So we were super grateful that he came for the opening event, and here's some of the best bits from his talk.
I'm going to quote someone here. In old times, people used to think that a disease was some actual entity or thing which got into the body in some way and was there lying hidden and was to be cut out or cast out. This idea, which we know to be true only in a few specific instances, was at one time general. The conclusion is that all disease is disordered function. Here then I say is the highest justification for all treatment being based upon the principle of restoring disordered function. This is what I have ventured to term functional medicine. This idea of functional medicine. Lancet, 1871. The ideas that we're talking about are not new. We saw the slides from Dr. Mabry of Andrew Taylor Still talking about function and the interrelationship of structure and function. So when we talk about functional medicine, what we're talking about are the functions in our lives. The function of being able to receive that which we need. The function to be able to get rid of that which we don't need. the function of being able to produce energy, the function of defense and repair, of transportation and communication and creating an infrastructure. So when I talk about functional medicine, I'm actually talking about a systems-based approach that looks at the root cause of imbalance, of disease, and is engaging the individual, the patient, on their journey toward healing in a therapeutic partnership. This is what functional medicine is. When we look at functional medicine, many of the ways in which we use metaphor to be able to look at it is using the tree, for example, and talking about root causes. We can see here and we understand from lifestyle medicine that the issues of nutrition, like the taproot of this tree, of our health and well-being, but also movement and exercise, how we deal with stress, whether we have good sleep and relaxation, where is there meaning and purpose in our life? We start with lifestyle. But beyond quote-unquote lifestyle medicine, we take these principles of being able to look at various antecedents, triggers, and mediators, looking at antigens and toxins, genetic predispositions, our own experiences, the mental, emotional, and spiritual imbalances that we have. And we take those and we filter them through looking at understanding the functions. We see here these core clinical imbalances that I just mentioned. That is what leads to the various symptoms that are being expressed. We recognize that more than half of our patients have multiple comorbidities, multiple complex chronic imbalances that are going on. And that's what we're doing within functional medicine. Now, many people have thought that functional medicine really is about some kind of test. If I do the right test, if I give the right supplement, if I do the right thing, that's what functional medicine is. But it's not. It's a path. It's a way of knowing. Diagnosis, the Greek, a way of knowing. A way of knowing, a new way of thinking, of looking at imbalances within this matrix where we begin to gather information about the story of someone's lives. We look at what are those lifestyle factors and where are they out of balance. And if we're all honest with each other, we all have imbalances in our life. And we all work to continue to journey on that path towards wholeness, towards health, that aspect. So what we do within functional medicine is we focus on how do we create balance. Now, when I went to medical school, I thought this is what I was going to learn about. Went to a pretty good medical school, Washington University. I learned some amazing things. But I was interested in how do we actually work towards optimizing health and well-being, because that will be where the opportunity is to decrease healthcare costs and to be of greatest benefit to our people. Now, that was in the early 80s. As fate would have it, I had this incredible opportunity to work at the Cleveland Clinic 30 years after graduating from medical school, to be able to look at those exact kinds of questions. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. But before I do that, I want to just give a shout out and talk a little bit about training in functional medicine, because Michael noted that he has done that. We began in 1980s. It was a concept. In the 1990s, it was put forth and began to be taught. In the 2000s, it was codified. in 2009, we began a journey towards developing a certification process. The first practitioners were certified in 2014. Same year we went and began to work at the Cleveland Clinic. Now there's nearly 3,000 practitioners who are certified. There's 10,000 in the queue. We've done trainings of over 80,000 clinicians around the world. I personally have taught in 16 countries. We're bringing this forth because people want it. So when we started the Center for Functional Medicine, it was one doctor, one nurse, one nutritionist. We had about 1,000 square feet of space. And they said, okay, go ahead, do it. We started off trying to work on our EMRs. You know, everyone laments the EMR and trying to get everything all set up. And we're like, oh, we'll have time to do that over the first 3 months as we kind of get our feet wet. Day 1, schedule's full. Day 2, schedule's full. At the end of 3 months, we had 100 people on the waiting list. At the end of 6 months, we had 500 people on the waiting list. We expanded our staff. We moved to be able to create a new system. We didn't use advertising. People heard about it, and they came. Now, part of it is that we accepted insurance, and people wanted to be able to have the ability to see someone who was thoughtful, going to listen to them, going to give good quality service, focus on that relationship that was going on, and personalizing the care that we gave. So by the end of a year and a half, we broke ground, and we were setting up, and we set up a new space, 17,000 square feet, 10 MDs, 4 PAs and nurse practitioners, 6 nutritionists, behavioral therapists, health coaches, staff of 54 people. Because people wanted it. They were ready to receive that. We were focused on the triple aim of lower cost of care, of better patient outcomes, and of higher patient satisfaction. We've since moved forward with the quadruple aim, the fourth aim, that is about helping practitioners to feel joy and happiness in the delivery of healthcare. There's actually a fifth aim that's been talked about now, and that is about how to make sure that we have equity, that people of whatever different socioeconomic status or differences that they have access to the same incredible care. So we started off and we said, well, how do we tell if we're really doing a good job? We said, well, let's focus on function. Oh, it's functional medicine. Let's focus on function. And so we said, well, when we look at value, that's going to be the quality of care divided by the cost of what's going on. So we use these patient-reported outcome measures. These tools were developed by the National Institute of Health based upon the work of John Ware and the SF36 and outcomes research over a long period of time, now associated with the overall quality-adjusted life years and looking at they're predictive of future costs of care. So we said, let's begin to look at this. And it was fortunate because the Cleveland Clinic was already using these tools in many of their settings, which allowed us to have a direct comparison that James talked about of comparing the standard of what we did with the standard of internal medicine and family medicine at the Cleveland Clinic. I like to say to people, we demonstrated that we're able to do a better job in terms of patient outcomes, and we were comparing ourselves to the Cleveland Clinic. And we did better. I'm very proud of that. And it's a shift. It's a change that went on. But as we did that, what we also noted was that being able to work in groups and have the opportunity, especially within nutrition, but even for our clinicians, if we could start focusing on groups, And we developed a program called Functioning for Life with shared medical appointments and shared nutrition appointments. And in that setting, we also went out into the community. Dr. Mark Hyman worked with Dr. Daniel Amen and Rick Warren from Saddleback Church and put together the Daniel Plan, which was about using the small groups in churches to be able to help care for each other and hold each other accountable in that caring. And we're able to demonstrate here, we have in our Functioning for Life program, we saw in our programs, 40% of the people were significantly better, clinically significantly better. 25% were slightly better, and we can see the numbers there. Overall, we saw the PROMIS score change 3.36 points. Again, statistically significant at that point in time with weight loss in this particular example. And that data was published in the British Medical Journal. We also demonstrated in this article that we were able to do it in a cost-effective basis and be able to use this model as a means of being able to work with insurance companies and actually increase revenue for our clinic, for our center there. So when we look at value, we end up talking about the outcomes that are there and the overall cost of care. I would say it would meant part of the difficulty without working in a vertically integrated healthcare system like the Geisinger Clinic. It's pretty difficult to get cost data. So what we did was we put together some people who were employees of the Cleveland Clinic, and we put that data together. And so I just want to share a story with you of one of the first patients who came in. Actually, she came in, our first day was October 2nd, 2014, and she came in on October 12th, 2014. I remember that because it's my birthday. So she came in that day, and she'd been a nurse in the Cleveland Clinic for most of her life. And she had developed steroid-dependent asthma. She required a walker at that point in time. We listened to her history. She'd had a severe exposure, developed recurrent pneumonias, multiple hospitalizations, had been in the ICU 3 times on the vent, had bronchomalacia. She was on chronic steroids, hypertensive, and cataracts secondary to her steroids. So she came in October of 2014. Now here I do not have the patient reported outcomes measures because we didn't start those until January of 2015 when we got our research going. So I don't have that data on her. But what I do have is we do something called a multiple symptom questionnaire. Anything below 25 is pretty normal. 25 to 50 is mild disease. 50 to 100 is moderate disease. Above 100 is severe disease. She was sort of right at the cusp, right there. So we talked with her, engaged her, and said, well, what we want to do is we're going to change your diet, and we're going to give you some nutritional support. We're going to help your gut within functional medicine and within many different systems approaches. All imbalance starts in the gut because it's our interface with our environment. It's where all our food comes in, and it gives us the information, the energy, and the knowledge about what's happening in our world and how we're relating to our world. So we started there, and we did some specialized nutritional testing. We gave her a few supplements to start with, just a multivitamin. But in that diet change, specifically, and helping her gut, and helping to decrease inflammation, what we saw was that this score went from 97 to 38 at that point in time. And she said, this is the best my lungs have felt in a long time. When she came back, I was amazed that she told me that she'd gotten on a stationary bike. Now, this is a woman who came in a walker. And 5 weeks later, she didn't have a walker. And I said, how are you doing with movement? And she said, it's great. I got on my stationary bike. I biked 17 miles yesterday. And it's just, I don't know. I think of her, and I think of helping to give her life back. And so what we saw since that period of time, following her for 2.5 years after that, until she retired, her MSQ never got significantly worse. She had no more hospitalizations. And critically, she said, "This is so important in changing my life that I want to work to volunteer to give back so I can help my community, because that's what I've wanted to do as a nurse all the way along." So that's powerful. As they say, but wait, there's more. So we put together these graphics. And the graphics will tell us that before she came in, this is the anchor day. Whoops, I guess it doesn't like when I stand there. The anchor day 0 of when she came into functional medicine. And we included all the things like the testing, some of which was out of pocket, and the supplements that she took in part of the overall cost of care. But before she came in the 8 months before, she had several ICU visits. She had a total cost of care of $55,000 during that 8 months beforehand. The overall cost of all of the workup that we did, all the supplements, was $5,000. And that's a lot of money. But what we saw was that the outpatient costs, inpatient, outpatient costs, there were no inpatient costs, the outpatient costs here, this was when she fell and broke her arm because of her cataracts and she couldn't see. This was her cataract repair surgery because she finally was healthy enough to be able to go to have surgery. We saw the overall costs, 10,000 of that 16,000 was actually related to previous costs. So in the end, we went from a $55,000 to about $10,000 in overall costs for all of functional medicine and all the care that she had in 8-month period of time. So we have an opportunity to be able to create value by caring for people, by doing what we as clinicians want to do, spend time, talk to people, help them to change the behaviors in their life, help them to move towards health and well-being. That's what our opportunity is. It's said that farmers don't grow crops, they create the conditions for the crops to grow. And I would say that healers and doctors, we don't heal people. We just create the conditions for people to heal. That's what our opportunity is as we go forward here, to be able to create value and opportunity so that we have more joy in our jobs, our patients are doing better, and they're able to give back to our communities in ways. And oh, by the way, it saves money. Incredible opportunities. I'm so thankful for getting to meet Michael and James. Thank you for introducing us. To be able to bring this in East Tennessee and to demonstrate that, we can do this anywhere as we work together as community. Thank you.
I want to take just a minute to thank 3 of our critical partners who have played a vital role over the last 10 years. Firstly, Freedom Practice Coaching was our first ever major sponsor, and their support allowed us to move from a show to a movement. Fullscript has been our most consistent supporter over the years and exemplify the shift we wanted to see in technology adoption to smooth the path for integrative care. And finally, Lifestyle Matrix Resource Center have been critical to our mission to popularize group visits. I want to thank all the partners who have supported us over the last 10 years. For more information about the partners, you can click on the link below.
All right, I'm here with Karen Sigmund-Smith from the Institute for Functional Medicine and living close enough that you can come to a little meetup. How exciting is it to see 90 people coming to think about functional medicine here?
So fantastic, especially this close to home. It's great. Love it.
So how do you think that this kind of community fits in with the sort of vision of where IFM is going?
Absolutely fits in, and it's actually helping us to also reach people in the rural areas. So that's near and dear to my heart, and I think that getting this many people aware of how impactful functional medicine can be is really going to change lives, and I'm so happy that Dr. Mabry has pulled this together. I'm impressed.
Yeah, I just thought it was a fantastic evening and a diverse group of people who, sometimes at events like this, people are kind of shy and it can be kind of boring, but this was really lively and the discussion was lively and I learned some things and it was inspiring. So you see people hanging out afterwards talking with each other. That doesn't always happen at events like this. So it was amazing. And I live in Weirville, North Carolina, and I'm going to come back in April. So I think it's a great community here and a lot of potential opportunities.
The beginning of the Functional Forum, we saw that there was a lot of talent in New York, and that's why we started it there. And we live streamed the show to over 400 meetups all around the world. But as the functional medicine movement has evolved, there is now talent in every city and town across the country. And so uniquely, you'll see the new model here tonight, which is more than 90 practitioners from all the surrounding cities and towns coming together and learning from each other, but also inspiring the next generation of physicians who are just starting to learn about functional medicine. This is the exciting evolution of the Functional Forum model. Let's go in and see what some of that case collaboration looks like in real time.
We just kind of talked about, being more vocal, being better advocates for our patient, or always being advocating for our patients, whether it's diet, nutrition, exercise, being the first person to disseminate information as we get it, trying to continue to learn, always having an open mind and learning more and helping our patients the best we can.
That's great. So Dr. Hundley said just being an advocate for your patient, always learning more.
We talked about healthcare providers just leaning more on nutritionists and coaches and counselors and bringing them in on the conversation of how do we heal our patients instead of it just being just healthcare providers in that sense.
I feel like nutrition in this area would be probably the lowest hanging fruit because we have plenty of like farmers markets and fresh stuff, and we have people who are wildly uneducated on how to actually make that happen. So potentially creating like a group level visit to get the lowest hanging fruit of nutrition, maybe not as specific as an IFM course and all this type of stuff, but just low hanging fruit, add a vegetable in there once in a while.
We talked about nutrition and loneliness.
So how do we help?
The biggest thing for people in my industry is a directory of the people that are here, because we get customers all the time looking for doctors who will do both supplemental and traditional medicine. And our list, nobody's accepting new patients because they're at retirement age.
I know, we get full. I know.
No, it's not. No, our list is from the 80s.
Oh, no, you got to fix that. Yeah. Well, we can have a list. We could come up with a directory. Some things that I had thought about, again, we could do group visits. If anyone wants all my group visit stuff, I will give it to you. So I have 6-month course. I will give it to you. You can manipulate it, change it. Oh, no. So I'll make that available to you. But it'd be fun to me, what if Patrick, some Asheville people came up with a GI module that we could teach our patients, and someone else came up with a bio-neurofeedback trauma-informed class, right? Or an identity class, right? So we come up with all these different classes and we just share it with our whole collective here. That's one way. Yes, ma'am.
This is going to grow massive. It's going to grow massive if we all continue to work together. I think we need to give more training here to everybody so that we can work together more, so we can share information. I've been doing integrative medicine for at least 20 years now, and I'm a pediatric oncologist by training, but really, I am very proud of what you did, and I really think we need to have at least a monthly training session, and just my recommendation. And we need to talk together more.
I said monthly. My wife said biannually. So we landed at quarterly. But certainly people can get together more often. I hope that's what happens, that a lot of friendships and relationships form from this. Something else I did, I used to go to South High School and teach their ROTC class, longevity and nutrition. So what if we started getting into schools, right? Let's teach kids when they're 5 how to eat, not when they're 55. It's hard to change that, as Dr. Hanaway was suggesting. Or what if we rent out the Martin Center and have a class on, hey, how do we help your body heal from diabetes or whatever? How about we get creative with stuff we already have around us? So those are just some thoughts that I have.
I would tell you probably the most resounding takeaway I got is team effort, working together, collaboration, making a community that's super approachable, and bringing that functional medicine, lifestyle medicine, to a level that our patients can take away, that the community can benefit from, and really just working together will make a huge impact, as already proven, and hopefully we want that change here.
Thanks so much for joining us for this episode of the Functional Forum, and thank you for joining us for the last 10 years. We've made an episode the first Monday of every month for the whole decade, and it's been an absolute pleasure to chart the growth of this industry as it becomes the standard of care. Next month, we'll be back to previewing the upcoming Personalized Lifestyle Medicine Conference that is coming up in April in Chicago. We hope to see you there. See you next time.